So in PhoneGap, we have a couple APIs that let us interact with the camera. We have the Camera API and the Capture API. Now the Capture API it follows the specifications of the W3C, and the Camera API is kind of just homegrown. The main method of the Camera API is camera.getPicture. So we can take a look at it. This is the PhoneGap documentation. So we can call this with navigator.camera.getPicture, and it takes two callbacks, a success callback and an error callback, and we can also specify some different options. Let's take a look at those options. I know they're here somewhere. So these are the options that we can use with this API. First we have quality. This can be anywhere between 0 and 100, 100 being the best quality possible. I'd recommend to keep this low, maybe 75 at the highest, unless this is a photo editing app or an app where we need to have these high resolution, high quality images. Next we have destination type. So what this means is the format, the image can be returned in a couple different formats. One is it can be returned in actual data in a base 64 encoded string, or it can just return the actual file URL. And in most cases you're going to want to use the file URL. This here is specifying the data URL, which is the actual data string. If we want to use the file URL, then we want to use file_URI. It's actually URI, not URL. The source type it defines where the image will come from. There's three possible values, camera being the default, as it is here. We can also get images from the photo gallery or the photo library on the device. Allow edit. This is true or false, and this only works on certain devices. I believe it only works on the iPhone. I know on my Android, even if I make this true, you can't edit the app, the image. But it could depend on the app. I'm really not sure of that. The encoding type, we can use either JPEG or PNG. It's JPEG by default. And then we have the target width and target height, which is pretty obvious. It just specifies the size of the image. So let's close this and open up NetBeans. And I just have a blank HTML file. I also have our default config file that we've been using. I'm going to paste in my starter script, and I'm going to use an external JavaScript sheet. So I'm going to actually just copy this inline JavaScript and cut it, and I'm going to keep the script tag, and I'm just going to add on a source, and that'll be main.js. Alright, so we'll save that and let's create main.js. Alright, so I'm going to just paste that in there. It's just the standard PhoneGap event listener and the on-device ready function. So the first thing we want to do, we want to get rid of this, is create our HTML. So what I want to do here is have two buttons. One button to actually take us to the camera to take a picture that will return the picture as data, and then another to get a picture from the phone's device gallery or library, and we want that returned as a file URL. Okay, so I just want to demonstrate both destination types. Alright, so we need two buttons. So we're going to say button, we're going to give it an on-click event handler, and that's going to go to a function called takePhoto. Okay, and we want to actually that's all we need to do there, and this is just going to say take a photo. Alright, put a BR tag, and we can copy this. I'm going to have another button that's going to go to a function called getPhoto. Change that to getPhoto. And then down here we're going to have two image tags. I'm going to say image, and we're going to put a style attribute, and we want to display none. We don't want these to show up at first until we upload the images or add the images. And I'm also going to specify a width of 200 pixels and a height of 190 pixels. And this is going to have an ID of data image, and the src is going to be blank for now because we're going to actually insert that inside of our JavaScript. Now I'm going to copy that, and this is going to be called URL image. Now the reason we're doing this is because when we take the photo, we're going to return it in data format, so that's going to go here in data image. When we get the photo off the device, we're going to return it as a file URL destination type. So that's why this ID is URL image and this one's data image. So that's all we're going to do for HTML. Let's check that out. Alright, so we just have two buttons. When we click them, you can see in the console, take photo and get photo are not defined, so we have to define those. So let's go to our JavaScript, and I want to initialize a couple variables. We'll say variable picture source and variable destination type. Okay, so picture source is just if it's coming from the camera or from the library, and destination type is if we want it in data format or as a file URL. Alright, so in the on-device ready, we're just going to define those values. So we're going to say picture source is going to be equal to navigator dot camera dot picture source type, and then destination type is going to be equal to navigator dot camera dot destination type. Alright, so that's all we're going to do in the on device ready function, because what we're doing is we're going to be calling these functions take photo and get photo. So let's define take photo. So we'll say capture photo function take photo. Alright, and let's see, I'm going to say navigator dot camera dot get picture. And now remember, as we saw in the documentation, this is the main method for the camera API. This will actually let us take a picture or get a picture. And let's see, what are we going to do? We need to define the callbacks. So we'll say on photo data success, and we'll say on error. And here we want to put options, so we're going to get a pair of curly braces, and I should probably make this a little easier to read. So we'll say quality we'll set to 50, and then destination type is going to be destination type dot data URL. Yeah, data URL. Alright, so now let's call the get photo. I'm actually just going to copy this. Say get photo from library. Change this to get. We're going to call the same method get picture, except this is we're gonna use a callback of on photo what was I going to do here? We're going to say on photo URI success. So that's what's going to be called if this succeeds. Quality, we'll keep it 50, and destination is going to be file URI. Okay, so actually we also need to add the source. So source, source type is going to be equal to source, which I forgot to put in here because we're going to pass this parameter into get photo. If we see it, look at our HTML, yeah, I forgot it here as well. So in get photo, we need to define picture source, and that's going to be dot photo library. And this could have also been photo gallery as well, but in most devices they mean the same thing. They'll both open the same pop-up box, which will actually ask you which app you want to use. Okay, so we have get photo. That looks good. So now all we have to do is define the callbacks. So first we have on photo data success. So let's create that, and this is if we capture a photo. Alright, so on photo data success, let's see. We need to pass in, this takes one parameter. This is going to be image data. Alright, so down here what we're going to do is set the image handler. And we're going to get a variable, we'll say data image, and this is going to be equal to document dot get element by ID data image. Okay, so now we need to unhide. You can see and if we go back to our HTML, you can see that we have our data image ID right here. Alright, so that's what we're talking about here. We want to unhide it because we set it to display none. So we can say data image dot style, data image dot style dot display block. Alright, so that'll unhide the image tag. And the last thing we want to do here is display the photo. Data image dot src, and here's where we're going to put the it's going to be a data string, so I'm going to say data image slash JPEG. I think it's base 64, and then we just want to concatenate on that image data parameter. Okay. Alright, so that should do it for on photo data success. Now we need function on, what is it, URI success. Yeah, right here. Just copy that. Alright, so on URI success. Okay, so we need to pass in image URI. Make sure you have URI, not URL. And we're going to pretty much do the same thing, so I'm going to copy this. Okay, so we want to say variable This is going to be URI image. URI, and we're not going to use this here because this is for if we want it formatted as data. We just want the image URL, so we're going to say image URI. Alright, so there's just one more thing we have to do, and that's handle the error, if there is one. And that's, what did I call that? On error. And for this, we want to pass in a parameter. And we're just going to send an alert. We'll say alert error, and we can just concatenate on the error message. Okay. Alright, so that looks good. There's no way to test this in the browser, so we'll continue in another video and we'll test this thing out.